All right, well, if we're going to make a hedge maze game, we better start making a hedge. So I'll go here to Game Object. I'm going to create another cube. And you can see all these things are kind of crowded in here. I'm just going to select my two crates. I'm going to hit W to get these arrows, and I'm just going to drag them out of the way, just so that they're not right on top of me here. So I'm going to click this new cube. I'm going to rename that Hedge. And with Hedge selected, I'm going to scale it up so that it's 4 by 4 by 4. If your object is not centered, I'm just going to change this so that it's the X position is 0, Y position is 0, Z position is 0, and hit F in here to center on that. And now the cube is halfway underground. I'm going to come over here and change the Y to 2. And now the cube is just sitting on the ground. And notice now my game view is completely white because my character is so close to the to our hedge cube. I'm going to click on FPSController, who is our player. And by the way, while we're renaming things, I'm going to call it player with a capital P. This is actually, the other things are optional. This one, we actually do need to rename this object player for some of the later stuff to work right now. So we'll just do it now to get started. With the player selected, I'm just going to drag this arrow. I'm going to drag it back. So now we can see a little bit what's going on here. Now under My Assets, Materials, double click to open that. I've already set up a hedge material, so I'm going to drag that onto this cube. If you're interested, here you can see it's got its own albedo and a height map, and it was actually, here, we'll make it white. You can see just how bright that was. It was just too bright, so I've added a color map that's just a little bit gray to dull it down just a little bit. So with that selected, remember this trick when we duplicated the crate? Edit, duplicate. Here it's showing me the shortcut is Command D. If you are a Mac user, I think that would be Alt D or maybe Control D. I don't know, whatever that shortcut is. Just click that. Now we see Hedge 1. This is something that's kind of cool. I'm going to hold down my Command key. Again, it's this, whatever that is for you if you're a Windows user. Again, it might be Alt, it might be Control, I'm not entirely sure. But whatever that key is, hold that down and drag over here along the X-axis, and holding it down, it's just going to snap really nicely. So I drag it over 4 times, and now this object is 4 steps in the X direction away from this one. So they're perfectly lined up next to each other. I'm going to hit Command D. I've just made myself another copy of this hedge. I'm going to hold the command button down and drag this. And now we have these things perfectly lined up. You could, if you needed to, notice, okay, here this is 4 in the X direction. That would be -4. You can type these things manually if you need to. But this dragging while holding the command button down so that it snaps in these sort of even grid positions is a really great time saver. All right, well, let's now run this and take a look at our beginning of a hedge wall. And I'll hit W to move forward. And here's a little thing that you might notice. When we jump, our jumping allows us to peek over this hedge maze. And, you know, I think if you're making a hedge maze, being able to jump this high so you can peek over the walls kind of defeats the purpose of being stuck in a maze. So Unity is very configurable. I'm going to hit Escape so I get control of the mouse, and then the triangle to pause it again. I'm going to click here on Player, and over here in the Inspector window, let's go down to the first-person controller script and see where we have jump speed. By default, that's a 10. I'm going to change that to 8. And now when I run it, I can't jump quite as high, can't see over the object. However, if we have a crate, I could jump on top of the crates, and if I'm standing on a crate, I can peek over the ledge. So continue creating some objects. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to create another game object. I'm going to call it, rename it floor unit. That's another cube. Now, right now my floor unit is hidden by my hedges. So over here in the hierarchy, I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to select each of these objects. And then with the command button down, I'm just going to drag this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just dragging it. It's no longer right on top of my new object. I'm going to come over here, reset this, and F to zoom in it. This object, I want it to be 4 on the x-axis, 4 on the z-axis, and 0.2 on the y-axis. And for the y position, I'm going to make that 0.1. So now we have this flat kind of flooring unit. And under My Assets Materials, I've prepared a tile unit. This tile unit, I'm going to select the material, has a bunch of graphics. You're welcome to explore and see what they are. But if we look up close, you can see, even though this is just a perfectly flat, squashed cube, with the addition of these extra textures, this looks pretty realistic. I'm going to now select my hedge, Command D to make a copy of this hedge, and I'm going to orient myself so I have a good angle at grabbing at the Z-axis. Drag this back, Command D, drag it back again 4 times, and now if I select all 3 of these things, and let's get myself a little bit higher with this angle, Command D, now I'm making copies of this whole unit. And let's get a Command D, give myself, I drag that 8 times over because I'm going to make a little intersection here. If I want, I can click this little cone on top, and now we're looking directly down. I can click here to turn on and off perspective. So if I'm in more of a, building God's eye view here, I can select it that way. So let's select this tile, Command D, hold down Command, drag that over, Command D, drag it like that, Command D, drag it back down, and then if I drag and select all these items, Command D, I can now move these whole units. And it's actually a very efficient way to start, giving some depth and active content to your world. So let's continue adding some objects to our space. I'm going to click this box to get perspective back. I'm going to hold down the right mouse button, pan myself around. I'm going to get the hand tool and just kind of drag myself through space. Selected, Command D, W to get the move tool, drag that over a couple times, Command D, drag it over again. So again, we've got quite a lot of space to work with here. Click the mouse in an empty space to select nothing. Game object, now I'm going to create a 3D object, a quad. I'm going to, under Transform, Reset, and I guess I can just drag this, again holding that Command button down, I'm going to use the rotate tool, rotate. Holding the command button down, I want to rotate it 90 degrees in that direction, and I'm going to move it up a little bit. I'm going to scale it 3 in the X direction and 3 in the Y direction. Leave it at 1 in the Z direction. It has no Z direction depth. And we'll just position it so that it's kind of like a little billboard. If I continued snapping it here it's kind of interfering with the surface of the hedge because it's perfectly aligned. So without holding down the command key, I'm just going to drag this forward. Well, what am I doing with this? It's just a white square. Let's go under textures. I've actually included a texture. Let's drag this red block of text. It's an example of a wordy journalistic lead. And Command D, let's get a copy of that. I'm going to drag that over a little bit. And I want to drag an example of a tighter lead. And you know what? Probably makes more sense just the way it works. I'm going to drag this one over here. Yeah. So if you're walking in this direction, you would naturally encounter the bad example first and then the better example. Let me drag them both right there. Okay, so the assumption is that, walking through the maze, being able to spot the good answer will cue you. You're supposed to go in that direction. Obviously, you wouldn't put all the examples in the maze coded red and green. This is just to teach you what you're looking for. That's the idea. Let me create another example here. This is also interesting. If we go to Assets, Import New Asset, and I go to my desktop, I've actually got an image of the conference program. Let's drag that onto the title. Drag that onto the billboard. I'm all disoriented, so let's click on the most recent quad. There we go. That's what I've created. So I'm going to hit F to center myself on that. And let's get the scale tool and let's scale it so that it's a little bit more like the program should be. And, well, there we go. So now I've just shown you how you can bring in pictures from the outside so that you could pretty easily set up a kind of a museum setting where a student could, instead of just putting together a slideshow, could create kind of a 3D space to walk through, a gallery of objects. They don't have to be text, it can be pictures that can personalize a 3D space. Let's now add a coin to collect. Under Game Object, let's create a 3D object. Let's create a cylinder. And let's scale this object along the y-axis. Just flatten it down. That's pretty good. I could just type over here. It's about it's a little skinny, 0.7. So the scale, leave that at 1, 7, 1. And we can make it so it's kind of like this. Let's now change the orientation along the x-axis. Let's rotate it 90 degrees along x so that now we have it upright. And under My Assets Materials, I have a nice shiny metallic coin material that we'll drag. And so that looks pretty nice. But what we want is for that coin to spin. That's, that's part of the grammar of video games. So under scripts, I've actually created a little script that will make this coin spin. All we have to do is take this script and I'm going to drag it and drop it on top of the coin. And now over here in the inspector, with the coin selected, we can see under spin XYZ script, we can see we can make the coin spin on any of these axes. And if we make it spin on the Z-axis, let's put in 100. Now when we push play, we should see, my character fell right through the world. Now why did that happen? I find my player. Oh, here's why. My player seems to be pretty much completely inside a bit of hedge. So I'll drag my player up. Drag my player out of the hedge maze back here so that it's just above the ground, and let's push play again, and hopefully we won't fall through the universe again. Yeah, that was interesting. I had actually accidentally occupied the same space with a bit of hedge. All right, well, you would expect when we bump into a coin, you would want it to make a noise and disappear, and that'll be the next step. So to make our coin collectible, let's select the coin in the editor window, and under here in scripts, I've got a script already that will make the coin disappear and play a sound. We have to do a little bit of prep for that though. So I've dragged collectible onto the coin, and we can see we've got some other options. There's something that says collect sound, and we have to set that up. So here in the hierarchy, I've just clicked here so that nothing is selected. Game object, audio, audio source. With the audio source collected, I'm going to click here on audio clip, and there are a bunch of different sounds. Here's the game provides footsteps and jumping sounds and landing sounds. The assets that you downloaded include this coin sound. I'll double click on that to select that. And let's now go back and click the coin again, and we want to drag this audio source onto where it says collect sound audio source. Put that there. And now, one last thing, with a coin selected under here, let's go to the capsule collider, which is the thing that allows the coin to interact with other objects. We need to tick this box for is trigger, and that will tell the collectible script when the player bumps into this object, we have to run the contents of this script. If you're curious, you're welcome to take a look at what this script is. I'm not going to walk you through what that particular script does, because I think just when we play it, and let's walk over the coin.